about what we're doing here. We're making the TTC the better way. One step, one station, one bus stop at a time.
The TTC has sketched out its budget proposals, including a freeze on fares, while at the same time making investments in service.
Good afternoon. Mayor Chow says it's time to look for new ways to get the TTC moving.
At the same time, the transit service won't be charging more to ride due to an affordability crisis. CTV's Sean Lathong is covering this story. He joins us live now with the specifics. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, they're aiming to improve service. They're aiming to bring ridership back to pre-pandemic levels. It's not going to cost riders anything, but it is going to cost the city. New investment, shorter wait times, and a fare freeze. Mayor Olivia Chow unveils the proposed TTC budget for 2025.
This is a budget that put TTC riders and Torontonians first, with service increases and no fare increase. We're freezing the fares.
The announcement made this morning at Wilson Station in North York. Chow says the TTC will improve service across the network by fixing bus bunching on 10 routes and improving service frequency on streetcars along Dundas, St. Clair, and Bathurst.
Earlier this year, I challenged the TTC board to imagine a city where people choose to take transit first because it's the fastest, safest, most convenient choice to get to work.
The city plans to improve busy stations by piloting a station manager position, as well as improvements being made to stations with investments in fixing infrastructure.
Today's budget is a historic investment in state of good repair, the likes of which we have not seen in over a decade.
The total price tag for the 2025 budget is $2.81 billion. So that proposal is actually an increase from last year's budget. When asked where the money will come from, Mayor Chow said in part it's from the deal with the province that was struck last year, but also saying it will come out of the property tax bill, and we'll know what that looks like when the overall budget is released later on. Reporting live, I'm Sean Lathong. Nathan, Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Sean. Still to come, we'll have the latest on the fallout after Prime Minister Trudeau announced his plan to resign after a new Liberal leader is chosen. Well, if you had to wait for a bus or a streetcar to get to work this morning, you know just how cold it is, and the cold will be lingering for a few more days. Here's a live look at the city this afternoon. Let's bring in Lindsay Morrison for a look at the current conditions, and this cold weather is going to be here for a little while, Lindsay.
It is, Nathan. In fact, overnight tonight could end up being one of our coldest nights and mornings tomorrow that we've experienced all season long. We'll talk about that. I also want to mention the snow, because if you're joining us from areas like Collingwood, Alliston, further south into Nobleton, even Mississauga and parts of Etobicoke, you've been seeing snow today. And that's not the case everywhere, because this is a lake effect band. Elsewhere, we've got sunshine. Now, I do also want to mention London, though, because you are under a snow squall watch and a winter weather travel advisory. There's a significant accumulation expected in that part of the province today, thanks in part to these strong winds gusting to about 50 kilometers per hour in many areas coming out of the northwest. That is contributing to the cold. We're talking wind chills once again in the minus teens today. Right now at Pearson Airport, it is minus 8 degrees, but feeling like minus 14. We're going to detail just how long this cold is going to be sticking around coming up here a little later in the newscast. First, though, Michelle, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. To Ottawa now, where Liberal Party officials will meet this week to begin the process for selecting their new leader.
The position is being vacated after Justin Trudeau announced he will be stepping down as leader once a replacement is chosen. Details about the timing of the leadership race have not yet been announced. Liberal MPs were briefed virtually yesterday afternoon on the party's constitution and the next steps in the process. Parliament has been prorogued until March 24th. But opposition leaders say they'll bring down the government at the earliest opportunity. Canadians will likely go to the polls this spring.
There's no question that had we had an election in the fall, we could be in a position of strength. We could be tackling all these issues. We could have a much stronger economy. We could have a stronger administration with a clear mandate from the Canadian people. Limping along for the next few weeks because Justin Trudeau backed down from a fight, because Justin Trudeau recognized that he had lost the confidence of the House of Parliament, but refused to let the Canadian people decide an election. I mean, that's essentially what he's done. He's essentially, by proroguing and shutting down the Public Accounts Committee, he's effectively moved the inevitable date where he will face a non-confidence vote from the end of January to the end of March. Those are 2 extra months of uncertainty and chaos and misery that Canadians will have to live through.
Scheer says Trudeau should call an election now that he's lost the confidence of the majority of the MPs in the House. Former Montreal MP Frank Baylis has already declared his intention to join the race to replace the PM. Other potential candidates include former Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly, and former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney, who released a statement. It reads in part, "I'm encouraged and honored by the support that I've already been hearing from Liberal MPs and Liberals across the country who want us to move forward with positive change and a winning economic plan. That's what it will take to defeat Pierre Poilievre, to get Canada back on track and to build the strongest economy that works for all Canadians. I'll be considering this decision closely with my family over the coming few days." Meanwhile, the U.S. president says he's proud to call Justin Trudeau a friend. Joe Biden spoke with the prime minister yesterday after Trudeau's resignation announcement. Biden said today the American-Canadian alliance is stronger because of the PM. He says Trudeau was the first foreign leader he spoke with after becoming president and noted the 2 leaders tackled many challenges together.
At Queen's Park, Premier Ford says his focus remains on fighting the prospect of American tariffs.
Incoming President Donald Trump has made a 25% tariff a top priority. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has the details.
From the leader of Canada's biggest province, hours after Justin Trudeau announced a plan to step down, a warning.
Prorogation doesn't mean vacation.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford demanding a full commitment from Trudeau to one issue.
As long as he's Prime Minister, his main focus is not on the Liberal Party, is not on anything else. It should be the next 14 days making sure that we avoid these tariffs.
I, Donald John Trump.
2 weeks from today, Donald Trump returns to the White House. He's threatened to hit Canadian goods with a crushing 25% tariff at the start of his second term. Canada's premiers want a face-to-face meeting with Trudeau next week to talk game plan. Ford is pushing back on Trump's spin on the Canada-U.S. relationship. The president-elect now suggesting the countries merge.
I'll make him a counteroffer. How about if we buy Alaska and we'll throw in Minnesota and Minneapolis at the same time? So, you know, it's not realistic.
A proposal he was asked about tonight on CNN.
We're a sovereign country. We're proud. Canadians, just like Americans, are proud.
Trying to stress instead the importance of keeping the bonds between our nations strong.
9 million Americans wake up every morning, Aaron, to produce products for Ontario alone.
Ford's predecessor, Kathleen Wynne, became Ontario Liberal leader the same year Justin Trudeau nabbed the top job at the federal level.
It's a very hard day for him. It's a hard day for the Liberal team.
Wynne, like Trudeau, was deeply unpopular at the end of her leadership.
I will no longer be Ontario's premier.
While she lost at the ballot box, Wynne doesn't see that Trudeau had that option.
Without a team to go into an election when they're so far behind in the numbers, it just would have been impossible for him.
Trudeau's resignation means new questions about Ontario's next election. Ford had been considering one this spring to get ahead of a federal vote and any potential anti-conservative sentiment. The premier not giving direct answers, refusing to rule out an early trip to the polls.
What I'm focused on right this second and for moving forward is making sure that we don't have tariffs.
Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Yes, Donald Trump has threatened tariffs as a way to leverage tighter border security, and the province today has announced Ontario provincial police will be used to beef up security in something they're calling Operation Deterrence. Former OPP Commissioner and now CTV public safety analyst Chris Lewis joins us to weigh in. First, I'd like to know your thoughts.
Well, it's sad in some ways that Ontario has to belly up to the bar more so than the federal government. But obviously, Ontario and the OPP do have a role in border security. They need to work with federal authorities on our side and on the other side of the border to make sure the border is secure both ways. The announcement is not a long-term strategy because the OPP just can't come up with 200 bodies to ultimately do this full time because they'll be taken away from something else. But at the same time, it's a short-term strategy and it shows the commitment of the province in this regard.
Well, help us understand the role the OPP play in border security when it is a federal issue.
Well, it's a good question. And ultimately, all police have some sort of responsibilities to support the federal government enforcement authorities, CBSA and RCMP in our case, in providing a safe border. Ensure guns aren't coming into this country, dangerous drugs aren't coming into the country. And at the same time, there's a joint obligation, not in writing anywhere, to work with the U.S. authorities to help them secure the border from the other direction. But the OPP and municipal police don't have the authorities under some of the federal laws relating to customs and immigration, smuggling and whatnot that the feds do. So they got to work in conjunction at the same time by their presence and patrolling, gathering intelligence, sharing intelligence. They can certainly make a difference to try and deter things from happening along that border.
What's your take? Do the OPP have the resources to be able to take on this kind of role with everything else they do?
Well, I know the OPP is shorthanded in a number of places across the province, and those 200 emergency response team members, they're responsible to respond to gun calls, do public order type enforcement, canine backup, and other situations that they will be pulled away from to do that. Can some of them spring back to help? Absolutely. But they can't be 100% dedicated 24/7 to border security. The OPP just doesn't have the bodies to do that full time.
And, it is a lengthy border between Ontario and the U.S. Ontario saying this operation will target border activities outside the 14 official crossings staffed by federal boarding agents. What do you make of that?
Yeah, and that's the reality. St. Lawrence Seaway, for example, some things around the Great Lakes, other pieces of border that don't have a bridge or customs and excise group right there. That makes sense. The OPP have always done that, and they've cooperated in smuggling operations, and on a full-time basis and a part-time basis, and that should be their role. But to be doing it full-time without the RCMP, their presence with their authorities, and ultimately their responsibility doesn't make a lot of sense, but somebody has to do something. So at least Ontario is.
Do you think, this is one piece of the border security puzzle. Do you think we're on our way to appeasing Trump and avoiding the 25% tariffs?
If I could figure out what's going on in that mind, I'd be a rich man. So I can't predict that, but we're trying something. So hopefully all the provinces and the feds will belly up to the bar, and everybody will do their best to try and stop some of this tariff issue and doing what's right and should have been done for years.
CTV public safety analyst Chris Lewis, appreciate your time and insights today. Thanks.
Anytime, Michelle. All the best.
Donald Trump is taking questions from reporters in Palm Beach, Florida. And a short time ago, the U.S. president-elect addressed the relationship with our country.
We are not treated well, as you know, by Canada. Canada is subsidized to the tune of about $200 billion a year, plus other things. They don't essentially have a military. They have a very small military. They rely on our military. It's all fine, but, they got to pay for that. It's very unfair. I have so many great friends. One of them is the great one, Wayne Gretzky. I said, run for prime minister. You'll win it'll take 2 seconds. But he said, well, am I going to run for prime minister or governor? You tell me. I said, I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it better.
Trump insists it's a two-way street and indicated both the U.S. and Canada must play their parts in a successful bilateral relationship. We have new information on Canadian fugitive Ryan Wedding.
Wedding is an alleged cocaine kingpin being sought by U.S. authorities and linked to the murder of a GTA couple. CTV's Rahim Ladani is following this story, and he joins us now live. Rahim.
Michelle and Nathan, U.S. authorities believe Ryan Wedding still has access to a network of hitmen, and that is why they're trying to take extra steps to keep the names of informants and witnesses in their case sealed. New court filings describe the lengths to which U.S. prosecutors believe a Canadian ex-Olympian and alleged drug lord may go to stop witnesses from testifying against him and other defendants. California prosecutors say they want to keep the identities of confidential informants hidden in the case against Ryan James Wedding, a former Olympic snowboarder, and 15 other defendants, saying this is a complex case involving a sophisticated drug trafficking organization whose leaders have shown a callous disregard for human life, including, as charged in the superseding indictment, deploying hitmen to execute perceived rivals or enemies. Wedding, a former Olympic snowboarder and his alleged second-in-command, Canadian Andrew Clark, are charged with 4 murders and 1 attempted murder. It's alleged those crimes are connected with the moving of 1,800 kilograms of cocaine across Colombia, Mexico, the U.S., and Canada. Wedding is believed to be residing in Mexico, while Clark and 13 other suspects, including 8 other Canadians, are in custody. Prosecutors say Wedding is at large, presumably with the same access to encrypted means of communication and network of hitmen that enabled the charged murders. The defense wants information of cooperating witnesses to be shared with any member of its team. Prosecutors object, saying the term is too broad and increases the possibility of safety risks. None of the allegations have been proven in court. The FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for Wedding's arrest. Meanwhile, he and Clark are also facing charges in connections with homicides in Brampton and Niagara Falls. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Raheem. The province wants to make it worth it to make your home more energy efficient.
A new rebate plan has been outlined by the Energy Minister. CTV's Beth McTonnell has just received the details, and she joins us live now with more. Beth.
Michelle, the Ontario government has unveiled new energy-efficient programs. The goal to meet Ontario's growing population energy needs and make energy more affordable. The announcement by Energy Minister Stephen Lecce took place at Tesco Building Supplies in Scarborough alongside celebrity builder Mike Holmes. It's a $10.9 billion investment, which includes a new program where homeowners can receive up to a 30% rebate on energy renovations for things like new windows, insulation, heat pumps, battery storage, and rooftop solar panels. Supporting small businesses is also part of the plan, creating financial investments to lower energy costs during peak periods. The government says programs will add to the equivalent of taking 3 million homes off the grid and hopes homeowners will take advantage of the rebates.
That's a huge increase from investments of the past, $900 million on average each year over the next 12 years. That is going to put money back into the pockets of everyday families. And that includes our anchor program, the Home Renovation Savings Program, which is going to put money back into families' pockets where we believe it belongs.
Have you ever been in your attic? That's a great question. You have about this much insulation, maybe this much. I want to see a 1-inch butter coat of 2-pound spray foam and then 30 to 36 inches of blown-in cellulose. That blanket on the bed will save the energy from stack effect of heat being pulled out of your home. One simple thing. I'm excited about this solar battery backup system. We've come a long way. In the last 10 years, we can easily put 80K of backup power in our home from simple solar panels, not a lot of solar panels, and actually run your home.
The rebate program starts January 28th, and people can get more information at saveonenergy.ca. Reporting live, I'm Beth McTonnell. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. There are more winter weather warnings and alerts today from coast to coast. And for more on the weather in this country and south of the border, CTV's Renee Rogers is standing by with the very latest. Renee, here in Canada, there is cold weather in the east, cold winter weather in the prairies. How long is it going to last?
Hi, Nathan. A real mixed bag of wintry weather right across the province, or rather, I should say, the country. But let's start with the province of Ontario. There are expanded extreme cold wind chill warnings in place in northern Ontario, with wind chills expected between -40 and -50 degrees Celsius tonight. Now, no warnings in place in Toronto. However, the Great Lakes region is expected to be very cold as we enter into the second week of January. Now, out at the east coast of Canada, that low pressure system that brought a ton of snow, heavy gusting winds, and flooding is actually expected to remain parked over that area for most of the week, and that is expected to result in a lot of snow for parts of Quebec and the east coast. In fact, Environment Canada warning people in southern Quebec of snowfall amounts of 30 to 40 centimeters starting this evening. And then farther east in Nova Scotia and Cape Breton, PEI, people are being warned of 15 to 25 centimeters centimeters of snow. So certainly some winter weather happening right across the country. And for some people, you'll want to bundle up because it is expected to get cold.
Right, and they're also getting that cold in the U.S. They're dealing with a polar vortex. What's happening there?
That's right. Dangerously cold conditions, Nathan, are expected to come to the U.S. A large swath of it after that polar vortex saw a blast of winter weather over the past several days. Now, temperatures from northern Texas and the plains to the mid-Atlantic are expected to dip between 5 and 20 degrees below average, according to the National Weather Service. And that came after, that snow fell across a more than 2,000-kilometer swath of the U.S., creating havoc. 4 people died in traffic crashes. There were widespread flight cancellations, along with widespread power outages. And that is the real problem, Nathan. Tens of thousands of people still remain without power. And with these dangerously cold temperatures coming, that is causing a scramble to get hydro restored for many of these people who might not have heat. In Kentucky, Governor Andrew Beshear is warning people that if power is not restored by tonight, have a plan to stay somewhere else.
Yeah, good advice. CTV's Renee Rogers on the cold weather in Canada and the U.S. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Several people are in custody following a robbery in North York. This incident happening at a cell phone store on Wilson near Keele. Shortly after 4:30 yesterday afternoon, the suspects left the scene in a blue vehicle, which was later involved in a crash near Finch and Chesswood. Police say there was a short foot chase, which resulted in 4 suspects being arrested. 1 police officer suffered a minor injury to their leg. So far, there's been no word on charges.
There's been another encampment fire downtown. 1 person was taken to hospital this morning after the fire at Glasgow and Cecil. Toronto firefighters say they were called to the encampment just before 8 a.m. The fire was extinguished, and the person taken to hospital is being treated in a hyperbaric chamber. It's the 3rd encampment fire in less than a week. There was one last week near Queen's Park and a separate fire at an encampment near Fort York last Thursday night. Toronto Fire Chief Jim Jessup is recognizing some heroes within the ranks.
The recognitions are among the new chief's first duties today. CTV's John Musselman joins us live with the details. John.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, it happened here at the fire hall at Sherbourne and Bloor Street. The chief was honoring a group from Squad 313. Now, this was a devastating story back in May of 2022, but the men involved here rescued 4 people. It happened after a boat had capsized, hit a brick jetty on Lake Huron near Tommy Thompson Park, near Lake Ontario, and capsized. So they got into action here to rescue 4 people out of that boat. They had to cut into the hull to pull the people out. They were also assisted by the Marine unit. Now, sadly, 2 people did die in this crash, but Chief Jessup felt it was important to honor and mark what these men and women did on that day to help rescue these people, and here's what he had to say.
The women and men of Toronto Fire Service respond to over 175,000 emergencies every year, and the vast majority of the time, you're going to hear first responders say that's their job. But when you hear of incidents like this that are unique, that candidly put themselves at great risk that evening, speaking to the crews and speaking to the incident commander, it is really important that we do recognize their extraordinary actions above and beyond what they are normally expected to do, and to say thank you.
And many of the men we spoke to who were on that call say, they were just trying to do their job as best as they could, and they were able, again, to save 4 people inside that boat. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. And we do know that it is very cold outside. I'm happy to say that the temperature is expected to climb a couple of degrees this afternoon, but it's going to continue to feel like the minus teens. Here's today at a glance. -4 is our forecast high. Mix of sun and cloud unless you're getting clipped with some of that lake effect snow, which right now is still impacting areas to the west and to the north of Toronto. If you're brave enough to venture out for an evening skate, throw on a few extra layers. I don't think you're going to regret that. Overnight tonight, we will be very cold. And it does look like we have some snow in the long-range forecast. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break here on CTV News.
We'll see these folks at Nathan Phillips Square behind us. I mean, that's impressive because It is extremely cold today. You step out, it feels like you're in a freezer, and any lengthy period of time outdoors, I mean, you're gonna feel it if you're not dressed for it.
Yeah, for sure. You got to bundle up, and even though there's no snow on the ground, I call this snowsuit weather. You got to wear both the pants and the coat.
Definitely, and we're just looking at another shot here. There are flakes flying, so there may not be snow on the ground where you are, but lake effect continues. It's all thanks to the unfrozen Great Lakes. We've got cold winds blowing off the relatively warmer waters, and that's a recipe for snow and, of course, these bitter wind chills that we're going to continue to deal with as well. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. We're going to begin there with a live look just showing you again those skaters. I'm happy to say that the sun is shining, at least in parts of Toronto. But as you can see, once again, the flakes, yeah, they're falling as well. Where the snow is a little more intense at this hour is in southwestern Ontario, around London, for example. Snow squall watch in effect, anywhere from 15 to 25 centimeters of snow going to be possible there over the next couple of days. And as mentioned, we've also had some lake effect snow impacting parts of the West GTA, areas extending all the way north toward Georgian Bay. And around Vaughan now, you're starting to get into some light snow too. Big picture though, it's generally a quieter weather week for southern Ontario when it comes to active weather. That is going to change a little bit as we head into the weekend. So there's your tease on that. High pressure to the north, extremely cold the closer you get to Hudson's Bay. And we'll show you those temperatures in just a moment. I'm going to pause this around midnight tonight just to show you how strong that lake effect band is expected from Lake Huron over toward Lake Erie and still extending south of Georgian Bay as well. So we might get a couple of flurries, maybe a trace to a centimeter or two of snow in some parts of the GTA, but this is not a widespread event. Wednesday, we should see a little more in the way of sun for some areas that aren't seeing as much today. And then Thursday, this is the beginning of a bit of a warm up. I hesitate to say warm up. We're going to return or rebound to more seasonal values, which is around -2 degrees at this point in the month of January, but we're nowhere near that right now. It is -7 in Toronto. Again, temperatures on the rise. We're hoping to make it to -4 this afternoon. But look at northern Ontario, -26 degrees in Peawanuck, wind chill -38. Into the night, into the day today, rather, temperatures remain below freezing everywhere in southern Ontario, feeling colder than that. The provincial cold spot right now is Big Trout Lake at -33.5 degrees. Overnight tonight, this is the cold one, -15 for the low, wind chill -24 here locally. Might feel like -30 in some areas further to the north and to the east. There's your evening at a glance, and as we take a look at tomorrow, a very quick snapshot of what we can expect in some locations. Let's take a look at the 7-day forecast just to show you that improvement temperature-wise into the weekend. Right now I'm watching Friday night and into Saturday for maybe a trace to a couple of centimeters of snow. That's the forecast for now. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. The Toronto Maple Leafs visit Philadelphia tonight in the back half of a home-and-home set.
Riley catching up. Here's Morgan Riley. Scores! Game winner! Morgan Riley!
Toronto is on a 4-game winning streak after beating the Flyers 3-2 in overtime Sunday. The Leafs are leading the Atlantic Division, 4 points ahead of Florida. They are in Carolina on Thursday.
Still to come, we'll meet a man who lost $100,000 in a crypto scam after he was tricked into entering information on a fake website. CTV's Pat Foran will have the details after the break. During the first 9 months of last year, Canadians lost more than $94 million to cryptocurrency scams.
There are many different types of fraud related to crypto investing, and now there is one more scam you need to know about. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
This, to me, was entirely shocking that, assets could be lost so quickly.
Art asks that we use only his first name. About 3 years ago, he decided to invest in cryptocurrencies with a company called Kraken. He left money in the account untouched for almost 2 years. When he went to sign in to check on his investments, he did a Google search.
I essentially just did a Google search and looked for Kraken. The first one that came up, I clicked on that, and it was branded the same colors.
The website Art clicked on was actually a fake spoofed Kraken website. Once he entered his sign-in information, his account was drained within minutes.
In 6 minutes, literally, All of the money was taken out of my account, I mean the crypto assets, to an external wallet that was never used before.
Art says $100,000 was stolen from his account. When CTV News reached out to Kraken, the company said, "We are sorry for what happened, and we encourage all clients to be extremely careful what they click and ensure they are only utilizing Kraken.com."
If it matches that usual profile, your chances of recovery are 0.
A law firm that specializes in helping investors who have been defrauded in cryptocurrency scams says once crypto assets have been stolen, they're almost impossible to recover. David Milosevic says there are many different types of crypto investment scams. Many involve fake websites that appear to be the real thing.
In an average week in my small firm, I get maybe 40 people a week calling my office telling me they've been defrauded in this type of crypto scam.
In Art's case, the RCMP determined his money was transferred out of the country and is untraceable. He says losing $100,000 has been devastating for his family.
This is money that we don't have that's spare. I have 3 kids and, they're going to put them through college. It's quite disrupting in the family.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
2024 is now in the books, and as far as home sales fared in Toronto and the GTA, there was a decline in December and a slight dip in prices as well. Yes, the latest stats from the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board are in, and joining us now is TREB Chief Market Analyst Jason Mercer. Great to have you with us in the new year, Jason. How would you describe December on the housing front?
Well, I think, basically as we move through the fourth quarter of the year, we were seeing more buyers move into the marketplace as we saw interest rates trend lower. December is always a tricky month in the sense that it's one of the lowest sales months from a seasonal perspective, year in and year out. But, generally speaking, we have seen an uptick in market activity, and certainly as we move into 2025 towards the spring, we expect to see more buyers move off the sidelines and back into the marketplace as affordability improves on the back of lower borrowing costs.
Before we get into this new year, we talk a lot over the course of the year. Did 2024 play out housing-wise like you thought it did? What did you think of the market overall?
We definitely knew it was going to be sort of a tale of two halves, where the first half of the year, buyers were really experiencing the negative impact of very high borrowing costs. But as we moved into the second half, we started to see some of that relief. And I think you're only going to see more of the positive impact of lower borrowing costs as we move through 2025, just because, there's a lot of people, especially first-time home buyers, who are anticipating seeing even lower mortgage rates in the months to come. So they're kind of holding off before moving back into the marketplace.
Now let's talk about 2025. Interesting start politically, with the proroguing of Parliament there, and, some things might be some bills and stuff, not happening until they're reintroduced again. What do you think about where things are heading over the next few months in terms of housing and what we should expect?
Yeah, I think it's always a balance. On the one hand, we have the positive impact of lower borrowing costs, and that'll continue to get better in the months ahead. On the other side, you do have households that are saying, look, there's a lot of uncertainty out there in the economy today, whether we're talking about, domestic policy, whether we're talking, south of the border in terms of potential for tariffs and what have you. So I wouldn't be surprised as we move through the first quarter, at least, that people are taking a bit of a wait and see attitude, but I think as we move to the spring, there'll be a little bit more confidence in terms of what the months ahead hold, and again, benefiting from lower borrowing costs as well.
TREB Chief Market Analyst Jason Mercer, always great to pick your brain. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Well, there are calls from disability advocates for the province to do better when it comes to making Ontario accessible.
It's been 20 years since a promise was made. CTV's Mike Walker has more on the calls for change.
Brian Ellison has used a wheelchair since 2016 and says he constantly faces barriers wherever he goes.
It makes me feel I'm like a second-class citizen.
He says many businesses, even some healthcare facilities he attends, have not taken the necessary steps to improve accessibility.
Services that people take for granted that should be accessible, I think you can get in there. Oh, wait a minute, you can't.
The ayes are 89, the nays are 0.
In 2005, the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act was unanimously approved at Queen's Park with the intent of Ontario becoming fully accessible by 2025. That date is here, and advocates say the province is nowhere near that goal.
people with disabilities woke up to a province that is still replete with soul-crushing barriers.
The act was meant to develop, implement, and enforce accessibility standards covering everything from transit improvements to customer service and building design.
No government established a comprehensive beginning-to-end multi-year plan with deadlines.
Advocates raising concerns over schools.
There are not enough teaching and support staff available who are trained to teach all learners. Many, if not most Ontario schools, lack physical accessibility.
And a lack of accessible housing.
Some people with disabilities are having to crawl around their apartment because they can't get their wheelchair in the door. Parents are struggling to carry teenagers up and down stairs because they can't find an accessible house.
The province says it's meeting standards and notes changes to the building code that encompasses school upgrades as well as new and retrofitted hospitals and long-term care facilities. A spokesperson for the Minister of Seniors and Accessibility stating this builds on the province's historic spending in infrastructure, including public transit investments for the Ontario Line, Northland, and funding for TTC new subways and streetcars, along with Go Transit, Go Trains, Go Buses, and Go Stations, plus over 2,200 new accessible buses being delivered province-wide. Advocates say bold new action is needed to better support 2.9 million Ontarians with disabilities.
We need the government to enact all the enforceable accessibility standards.
They're now pressing each party leader to commit to fulfilling the Act's standards, providing a comprehensive list of recommendations on how to achieve that. Mike Walker, CTV News.
Still to come, a glimpse into the future when it comes to robotics and AI. A tech giant shares his insight. Business News is next.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
The CEO of chip giant NVIDIA says the world will soon see video games that look more like movies.
And robots that learn even more quickly. Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg has the latest in business.
Hello there. Here are your business headlines. Jensen Huang, who is the CEO of NVIDIA, says his firm's next generation of chips means, quote, the ChatGPT moment for general robotics is just around the corner. That's a reference to technology that lets computers imitate human language. A new AI model called Cosmos is intended to train robots and self-driving cars much faster. The BBC says Huang also predicts his new gaming chips will create movie-quality images. NVIDIA shares hit a record high yesterday, but they were down a little in morning trading. Toronto stocks edged higher, but there was selling in the U.S. Rising prices at U.S. service providers added to speculation the Federal Reserve will leave rates unchanged this month amid inflation pressures. And finally, U.S. and British private equity investors Apollo Global and BC Partners are buying control of the environmental services unit of Toronto-listed garbage giant GFL. The sale will generate about $6.2 billion in cash for GFL, which will use some of the money to cut its heady debt load. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg.
The new year is off to a rough start for workers at a GTA beverage packaging company. They were told on New Year's Eve they were being terminated, and now their former company has filed for creditor protection. Standing outside demanding an explanation, nearly 120 of now former employees of Juriki say the Canadian beverage packaging company told them to take a holiday break and return to work in January, then shocked them with an email on New Year's Eve saying their employment had been terminated.
You throw us on street like that? That's not right.
The termination letter states, the company has been pursuing a strategic process in an attempt to identify and complete a going concern sale of some or all of its business, but no transaction has been identified to date. And the company no longer has access to financing to continue active business operations and is ceasing operations immediately. It goes on to say the company is unable to make any payment to you in connection with the termination of your employment, including any pay in lieu of notice that may be due to you. Juriki has filed for creditor protection, showing it owes more than 100 companies a total in excess of $200 million.
You have a paper right to your full severance. Now, how much of that will the company be able to actually repay you
Once they emerge from creditor protection, it's another story.
Juricki has 1 plant in the United States and 4 in Canada, including a facility in Pickering. That production line was used by plant milk manufacturer Danone and was shut down after it was deemed the source of a listeria outbreak last summer, which led to 3 deaths.
Last month, we had a meeting with the plant manager. He told us that there's nothing going to happen. The company is safe.
Juricki, Danone, and Walmart Canada are named in a class action lawsuit launched in Quebec over the listeria outbreak. The lawsuit has not yet been certified by a judge.
Canada Post says it has returned to full service and has reinstated on-time guarantees following the holiday strike. On-time service guarantees have resumed for domestic parcels inducted into the system as of yesterday. Canada Post says it has also returned to normal delivery levels across the country. That includes in rural and remote areas. But some delivery delays are expected to continue as it works through international parcels.
Body-worn cameras are now mandatory for special constables on the TTC. The transit agency says adding the technology is meant to improve safety and accountability. CTV's Janice Golding has the details.
Constable Gerard Timpompo shows us his new body-worn camera, a device you'll see on each of the TTC's 260 special constables as of today. The move follows a successful 9-month pilot project that began last May in a move to staunch both fare evasion and to improve transparency.
Our customers want to know and want to trust that the work that we're doing it safely and that there's no misconduct of our officers, and also to ensure that our officers themselves are safe.
Last year, the TTC says it lost about $140 million to fare evaders, something customers recognize is an issue.
Everybody go inside it, nobody pay a penny.
So you think that these cameras are going to make a difference?
I think so, yes, because they had to pay.
Although not everyone thinks cameras, which come with an initial $950,000 price tag, will make a difference.
I think it's a cost that CTC can save on. Personally, I think it won't help in the way that will fix the problem.
Body-worn cameras were trialed initially by 20 special constables and 20 fare inspectors in the wake of a February 2018 incident. In this viewer video, you can see a black teenager complaining of being hurt after he was tackled and pinned by TTC fare inspectors. Following an investigation, the city's ombudsman made several recommendations, while the TTC vowed to make changes to ensure the system provided anti-racist and bias-free service.
From the moment that they're interacting with the public until that interaction's over, you're able to capture exactly what happens.
Overall, customers told CTV News Today they're on board with the cameras, which the TTC says officers will use when conducting fare inspections or when interacting with anyone who may be violating TTC bylaws.
At first, I wasn't crazy about the idea, but I think for them and for liability, absolutely, sure, why not?
I believe when they're interacting with public, it will be more safer if they have the cameras on them, because it'll be easier later on down the road to figure out who did what.
The TTC stresses none of the cameras will be used clandestinely. Officers will notify you if you're being recorded at the outset of an interaction. Janice Golding, CTV News.
Coming up, auroras from an incredible vantage point. NASA astronauts capture the northern lights from space. Few things can light up the sky and dazzle onlookers like the northern lights.
And today we have new images that are quite literally out of this world. Have a look at this. This is footage from NASA astronaut Don Pettit. He captured time-lapse images of the colorful lights from up in space in orbit over eastern Canada. The northern lights are also known as auroras, and if they are near the North Pole, they're called aurora borealis. Magical.
I know, good to know, and I'm guessing the view's pretty good from Earth because the skies are pretty clear.
Yeah, skies are pretty clear in most areas, although it is interesting because we talk about lake effect snow and how isolated the areas can be that are being impacted, and that's happening right now. So areas west GTA, north of Toronto have been getting snow today and accumulating in some areas, but we also have to talk about the cold. So here's tonight at a glance. That cold's not going anywhere. In fact, it's going to be perhaps at its coldest overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning. Wind chill -24. Dress accordingly or just stay indoors if you can. School day forecast for tomorrow. I know the kids have to venture out, so get on those extra layers, bundle up tight. One more look at the 7-day forecast does show a bit of an improvement when it comes to the temperature, but we do have more cold expected through the middle part of next week, and we're watching this weekend for a little bit of snow. We'll have an updated forecast tonight at 5 and 6. Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. Stay warm. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.